Hey, yeah, listen, this isn't some campfire ghost story, okay? This is real. It happened last weekend. Me, Nate, Chloe, Ben, we went up to Blackpine Lodge, Nate's family's old hunting spot deep in the Adirondacks, supposed to be a reunion, you know? Catch up, crack some beers, forget the city grind. Stupid, so stupid, because one of us, Nate, he never walked back out. And now, God, now we keep hearing him, whispering, calling, from places he can't be. If you're thinking about going somewhere remote, somewhere cut off, hear me out. Just hear what happened, because maybe you shouldn't go. Man, the drive up was longer than I remembered. Nate's rusty old Jeep groaned like it was dying on every incline, like the pines crowding the logging road so thick they blocked out most of the afternoon sun. Felt like driving into a green tunnel. Chloe kept fiddling with the radio, static hissing like an angry cat until Ben just snapped it off. Peace and quiet, guys. That's the point, right? He flashed that easy grin, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. We hadn't all been together in, what, 3 years? Since college ended and real life hit like a freight train. Jobs, relationships, the whole messy baggage. Nate had been the one pushing hardest for this. Blackpine's perfect, he'd said over beers 2 months ago. No cell service, no Wi-Fi, just us, a fire, and maybe some really terrible poker. He'd looked intense, needed it more than any of us. The lodge appeared suddenly, a hulking shadow at the end of the overgrown track. 2 stories of dark, weathered logs, windows like black, empty eyes. The wide porch sagged in the middle. Nate killed the engine and the silence rushed in. Thick, heavy, absolute. No birds, no wind. Just the tick-tick-tick of the cooling engine and our own breathing. Cheerful, Chloe muttered, pulling her jacket tighter. Nate jumped out, stretching. Built to last. Smell that air? Pure. He took a deep, exaggerated breath. It smelled like damp earth and decay. Ben clapped him on the shoulder. Lead on, fearless leader. Where's the key? Nate patted his pockets, frowned, patted them again. His smile faltered. Huh, swore I had it? Must be in the glove box? He rummaged in the Jeep, coming up empty-handed. A flicker of annoyance crossed his face. Dad swore he left it under the usual rock. He stomped over to a large, moss-covered stone near the steps, heaved it aside. Nothing but wet dirt and bugs. Damn it. That was the first tiny wrong note. Nate was meticulous. Always had the key. He forced a laugh. Guess we're breaking in. Window round back is always loose. He led us around, the crunch of our boots on dead pine needles absurdly loud in the silence. The window yielded with a groan of protest, and Nate wriggled through. A minute later, the heavy front door creaked open from the inside. Welcome to Casa de Blackpine, he announced, but his voice sounded tight. Inside was cold and dusty and dark. The main room had a massive stone fireplace, a sagging couch, a scarred table, cobwebs draped like gray lace. The air tasted stale. Power's off? Nate confirmed, flicking a useless switch. Got lanterns, though. He started pulling dusty Coleman lanterns from a cupboard. The feeble yellow light they cast only deepened the shadows in the corners. We dumped our gear. Sleeping bags on the floor upstairs seemed better than the questionable-looking bunks. The place felt watched, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. We tried to shake it off. Cracked beers. Ben started a fire in the giant hearth. The crackling flames a welcome counterpoint to the oppressive quiet. We talked, laughed a little too loud, the sound echoing strangely in the big empty room. Nate kept glancing towards the windows, the dark hallway leading deeper into the lodge. He jumped when a log shifted loudly in the fire. You okay, man? I asked. Yeah, fine, he said too quickly. Just feels different. Smaller, or maybe I'm bigger. He tried to laugh it off, but it fell flat. He kept rubbing his arms like he was cold despite the fire. Dinner was canned chili heated over the fire. The conversation started lagging, the initial forced cheer wearing thin. The darkness outside the windows felt like a physical wall pressing in. No stars, no moon, just utter blackness. Nate stood up abruptly, stretching. Gonna grab more firewood from the shed out back. Won't take a sec. He picked up a lantern. Want company? Ben offered. Nah, I got it. Need a minute anyway. Nate gave another strained smile and disappeared through the kitchen door that led to the back porch and the woodshed. We sat there, listening to the fire crackle. 5 minutes passed, then 10. The silence deepened, became charged. Taking his sweet time, Chloe remarked, trying to sound light. Another 5 minutes. Ben stood up. Okay, weird. I'll check. He grabbed the other lantern and headed out the same door. Chloe and I exchanged a look. The comfortable silence we'd briefly achieved now felt heavy with unease. We listened. Nothing but the fire and the pounding of my own heart. Ben came back a minute later, face pale in the lantern light. He's not out there. What? Chloe stood up. The shed? Empty. Wood piles there. Axes there. No, Nate. Lantern's gone too. Cold dread washed over me. Maybe he stepped into the woods? Nature call? In pitch black without saying? Ben shook his head. I called his name. Nothing. Just silence. We grabbed the remaining lanterns. Nate! We yelled, our voices swallowed by the trees. Nate, where are you? We circled the lodge, beams cutting weak swaths through the suffocating dark. Nothing. No footprints beyond the porch in the hard-packed dirt, no sign of a struggle, no dropped lantern. Just gone. Panic started as a cold knot in my stomach. Back inside, we tried to rationalize. Maybe he walked down the track? But why? His Jeep was here. His bag was upstairs. Maybe he saw an animal, got disoriented, but Nate knew these woods like the back of his hand. He'd spent summers here. We decided to wait, give him an hour. We huddled near the fire, jumping at every creak of the old lodge settling. The silence wasn't empty anymore. It was waiting, listening. That's when I first heard it. Faint, like a sigh caught on the wind. Mark? I snapped my head up. Did you guys hear that? Ben frowned. Hear what? Sounded like Nate, just my name, really faint. Chloe hugged her knees. It's the wind, Mark, or the fire, or your brain playing tricks. We're all stressed. I tried to believe her, but it felt close, like it came from the dark hallway leading to the bedrooms. My brain? Maybe. The hour crawled by. No Nate. The dread solidified into a cold, hard lump. We tried his phone. Pointless, no signal, but we tried anyway. Straight to voicemail. Battery probably dead, or we didn't finish the thought. We need to go look. Properly, Ben said, his voice tight. Split up? Cover more ground? Chloe looked terrified. Split up? Are you insane? In this? What if whatever got Nate gets one of us? Got him? I echoed, the fear spiking. You think something got him? I don't know, Chloe cried, her voice cracking. People don't just vanish into thin air. Not like this. Not Nate. The argument was cut short. This time, the whisper was clearer. Right behind me, near the cold kitchen doorway. A desperate, breathy rasp. Guys, help. We all froze. 3 heads snapped towards the sound. The lantern light flickered wildly on our faces. You heard that, right? Ben whispered, eyes wide. That wasn't wind. Chloe nodded, tears welling. It sounded like him, like he's hurt. It came from the kitchen, I said, already moving, lantern held high. We rushed into the small, cold kitchen, empty. The back door was still closed, locked from the inside. The window we'd broken in through was intact. Nowhere to hide. Nate, I called, my voice trembling. Where are you? Silence. Then, from the living room where we'd just been, cold, so cold. The voice was weak, trembling. Undeniably Nate's. We scrambled back. Nothing. Just the dying fire casting long, dancing shadows. He's messing with us, Ben said, but his voice lacked conviction. He sounded scared. Has to be. Some stupid prank. Why, Ben? Chloe demanded, her voice shrill. Why would he? He knows we're terrified. This isn't funny. It's the lodge, I said, the thought forming like ice in my mind. This place, it feels wrong, has since we got here, that missing key, Nate being jumpy, and now this. Ben scoffed, but it was shaky. Ghost stories? Come on, Mark. We're adults. There's a logical explanation. But he kept glancing towards the dark hallway. The whispers started coming more frequently. Never when we were looking directly at the source. Always just out of sight, just out of reach. Chloe, don't leave. From the top of the stairs. Ben, why won't you look? From the shadowed corner near the axe we'd brought for wood. Mark, it's dark. I can't find the door. Right beside my ear as I stood guard by the front window, making me yelp and almost drop the lantern. Each whisper chipped away at our sanity, our unity. Fear turned us against each other. He's leading us somewhere. Chloe sobbed after a particularly close whisper from the upstairs landing. He wants us to come up there. Don't go. He's hurt. He needs help. Ben yelled back. Are we just going to sit here? Where is he, Ben? I shouted, the pressure exploding. Point. Show me where that voice came from. You can't, can you? Because it's not really him. The silence after my outburst was deafening. The accusation hung in the air. Was it him? Or was it the lodge? Or were we all just cracking under the strain? We didn't sleep. Couldn't. We huddled near the fire, backs to each other, lanterns blazing, jumping at every sound. The whispers became more insistent, more personal, more wrong. Mark, remember sophomore year, Jenny Peterson? You lied for me. A secret Nate knew. One only he and I shared. Chloe, you kissed me at Sarah's party. Ben never knew. Chloe gasped, clapping a hand over her mouth, staring at Ben with pure horror. Ben, you stole the exam answers, told the prof Mark did it. Ben's face went ashen. It was tearing us apart, weaponizing our past, our secrets. Paranoia bloomed like a poisonous flower. Was Nate here somehow? Watching, tormenting us? Or was the lodge feeding on us? Chloe broke first. She started rocking, muttering to herself, not real, not real, not real. Over and over, fingers digging into her scalp. Then she screamed, pointing at the dark hallway. He's there! I saw him! Nate! Nate, stop it! She scrambled backwards, knocking over a lantern. It sputtered out, plunging half the room into deeper shadow. Ben tried to grab her, but she lashed out, scratching his face. Don't touch me! You did this! You wanted him gone! She dissolved into hysterical sobs, crawling into a corner, pulling her sleeping bag over her head like a shroud. Ben just stood there, blood welling on his cheek, staring into the darkness where Chloe had pointed. His breathing was ragged. It's not real, he whispered, but it sounded like a plea. It's not real. It's not real. I felt it too. The pressure building behind my eyes. The whispers weren't just outside anymore. They were inside my head. Tired, Mark? Just close your eyes, just for a minute. The voice was soothing, familiar. Nate's voice, but laced with something. Slick. Oily. My limbs felt heavy. The firelight seemed to dim. Maybe just a minute's rest. Then a different sound. Not a whisper. A thump. Inside the wall beside the fireplace. Solid. Heavy. Like a fist hitting plaster. Then another. Thump. And another. Thump. Followed by a choked, gurgling sob, muffled but horrifyingly clear, coming from within the wall. Let me out! It wasn't a whisper. It was a raw, desperate scream, trapped and echoing inside the hollow space. Nate's voice filled with pure, unadulterated terror. Chloe screamed again, a wordless shriek of utter madness. Ben stumbled back, tripping over a chair, landing hard. No, no, no! He scrambled away from the wall on his hands and knees. Something inside me shattered. The last thread of reason snapped. That wasn't a trick. That wasn't the wind. That was Nate, trapped in the wall. I didn't think. Pure, primal terror took over. I grabbed the heavy iron fire poker, its end glowing red hot. Nate, hold on, I roared, a sound more animal than human, and charged at the wall beside the fireplace. I swung the poker with all my strength. Crunch. Plaster exploded, lath splintered, dust filled the air, choking me. I swung again. Crunch. And again. Crunch. Ben was yelling, Chloe was screaming, but it was all distant noise. The only thing that mattered was the hole, getting bigger, getting to Nate. The voice had stopped, but that just made it worse. He needed me. I tore at the broken plaster with my hands, ignoring the cuts, the dust burning my eyes. I ripped out chunks of lath. The hole gaped, dark and empty. I thrust the lantern beam inside. Cobwebs. Dust. A few ancient mouse droppings. A void between the studs. Nothing else. No Nate. No body. No sign anyone had ever been there. The silence crashed down, heavy, final. I dropped the poker. It clanged loudly on the stone hearth. I stared into the empty hole in the wall, my breath coming in ragged, dust-choked sobs. My hands were bleeding. Plaster dust coated my face like war paint. Ben was on his feet, staring at me with a mixture of horror and pity. Mark? Oh God. Mark. Chloe had stopped screaming. She was just whimpering softly in her corner, curled into a tight ball. The whispers were gone, the thumping was gone, the voice was gone. There was only the ragged sound of our breathing, the dying crackle of the fire, the gaping, accusing hole in the wall, and the crushing, absolute certainty that Nate was gone. Truly gone. And whatever had taken him, whatever had spoken, was still here. In the silence, in the walls, in the suffocating darkness pressing against the windows, waiting for sunrise, or maybe just waiting. The rest of the night was a blur of numb terror. We didn't speak. We didn't move from the circle of lantern light, now reduced to one functional one after Chloe knocked hers over. We watched the hole in the wall like it might vomit something forth. We watched the dark hallway. We watched the black windows, half expecting Nate's face to appear, pale and pleading, or worse, something else entirely. The whispers didn't return. The silence was almost worse. It felt like the lodge was holding its breath, satisfied with the chaos it had sown. Chloe eventually passed out from sheer exhaustion, twitching in her sleep. Ben sat rigid, eyes wide and unblinking, the scratch on his cheek stark in the dim light. I just stared at my bleeding hands, the dust ingrained under my nails. I did that. I tore apart the wall, because a voice told me to, a voice that wasn't there. The first gray fingers of dawn creeping through the grimy windows were the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. Weak, cold light, but it was light. It banished the deepest shadows, made the lodge feel less like a living tomb. "Let's go," Ben croaked, his voice raw. "Now, before anything else." We didn't discuss it. We moved like automatons, shoving sleeping bags into packs, not caring about folding, leaving the scattered food, the overturned lantern, the broken wall. We just needed out. Chloe woke, confused and whimpering, but the sight of the gray light spurred her into frantic movement. We didn't look back. We stumbled out onto the porch, the cold morning air hitting us like a slap. It smelled of pine and frost and freedom. Nate's Jeep sat there, dew-covered. Ben fumbled for the keys Nate always left in the visor. They were there. He climbed into the driver's seat. Chloe scrambled into the back. I took shotgun, my hand hovering near the door handle, ready to run if the engine didn't turn over. Ben turned the key. The engine sputtered, coughed, and roared to life. A sound so normal, so beautiful, it nearly made me cry. Ben threw it into gear, spinning the wheels in the damp earth as he gunned it down the overgrown track. We bounced violently, branches scraping the sides, but we didn't slow down. We didn't look back at Blackpine Lodge shrinking in the rearview mirror. We just focused on the track, on the growing light, on putting distance between us and that place. We hit the main logging road, the tires finding gravel. Ben pushed the old Jeep harder. We were maybe 5 miles down, the sun properly up now, glinting through the trees when it happened. My phone, useless all night in my pocket, buzzed, then chimed. A notification. Ben slammed on the brakes. We all froze, staring at my pocket like it contained a live grenade. Slowly, trembling, I pulled out my phone, service available, and below that, a notification for a voicemail. Received at 3:17 a.m. My blood turned to ice. 3:17 a.m. The heart of the night, the peak of the madness. With shaking fingers, I navigated to voicemail. One new message from Nate. I looked at Ben. He looked sick. Chloe was hyperventilating in the back. "Don't," Ben whispered. "Just delete it. Don't." I couldn't. I had to know. I put it on speaker. My thumb hovered over the play button. The silence in the Jeep was absolute, broken only by Chloe's ragged breathing. I pressed play. Static hissed for a second. Then, clear as day, Nate's voice filled the car. But it wasn't the terrified scream from the wall. It wasn't the desperate whisper. It was calm, soothing, almost smug. "Hey guys," the recording said, Nate's familiar tone horribly out of place. Made it out, took a shortcut through the ravine when I went for wood, twisted my ankle pretty bad, holed up under some spruce boughs, freaking freezing, but okay. Phone died right after I left this. Just got enough juice now I'm near the road. Saw your taillights way ahead. Guess you panicked and bailed? Figures, don't worry about me. I'll hitch back. Just head home. I'll catch up later. And Mark? A pause. My heart hammered against my ribs. Thanks for trying to get me out of the wall. That was something else. Real dedication. A low chuckle, devoid of warmth. Next reunion? My place in the city, with lights. Lots of lights. The message ended. We sat there on the side of the desolate logging road, surrounded by endless silent pines. The sun was up, but it didn't feel warm. The message was plausible. Twisted ankle. Phone died. Hitchhiking. But the timing, the tone, that chuckle. And the last part, thanks for trying to get me out of the wall. Ben finally spoke, his voice a hollow rasp. He couldn't have known about the wall. We left before dawn. He was behind us. Chloe whimpered. Then, who left the message? I stared at my phone. The service bar flickered, then vanished. No service flashed back onto the screen, like it had never happened. But the message was there, saved in my voicemail. I looked back down the empty road we'd just come from, the road leading back into the deep green shadows back towards Blackpine. The trees seemed to lean in closer, watching. Nate's voice, calm and impossibly here, echoed in the silence of the Jeep. Just head home. I'll catch up later. Ben put the Jeep back in gear. He didn't say anything. He just pressed the accelerator, and we kept driving, faster now. Away from the pines, away from the lodge, away from the voice on the phone. But the silence inside the Jeep wasn't silence anymore. It was filled with the unspoken question, louder than any whisper, pounding in time with my own frantic heartbeat. Is he really coming home? Hey, so that's it. That's what happened. We got back. We told the police. They searched, found nothing. No sign of Nate at the lodge, no sign on the trails, no sign anywhere. The official report, missing person, presumed lost in the wilderness, exposure, animal attack. They have theories. They don't have the voicemail. Like Ben and Chloe, we don't talk much anymore. Too much. Wait. But here's the thing they don't know. The thing I know, sometimes late at night when the house is quiet, my phone sits on the charger silent, and I swear I can hear it. Not ringing, not buzzing, just a faint sound like static or breathing, and sometimes buried deep in that static, the very edge of a familiar laugh. He said he'd catch up later. What do you think happened back there at Blackpine Lodge? Was it the isolation, the fear, something else? And that voicemail, how? Seriously, how? Drop a comment below. Let me know your theories, because honestly, I need to know I'm not the only one losing sleep over this. If you made it this far, thanks for listening. Seriously, maybe don't plan that remote getaway just yet. Smash that like button if this creeped you out. Subscribe if you want more real horror stories, and comment. Please comment. I need to hear what you think.